I stopped by Lidl today and picked up this thing. I don't really need it, but this one speaks. Unfortunately it doesn't do English, it does French, Dutch and Flamand. I think that's one of the Belgian languages. But there's a bigger problem, and that problem is that Lidl appears to be selling returns. Let's call up the memory. I don't know if you saw it there, but there's a little bit of the 66, so you're missing that there. 71. And this is my recording that I did just now. I didn't put it in the right place, so it's not completely correct. I just want to test it work. You're missing the side there from the 1. But more importantly, notice it says 4 here. Who's this? Not really on to be selling returns. However, as I said, it was really cheap. Where's my screwdriver? I think it was about 15 or 16 euros. And to be honest, it's not worth returning it. It would take me more time and effort to do that than to just fiddle around and see what's inside the thing then. Maybe have a crack at fixing it. I think the pros use guitar picks and stuff, but for me, a bit cut off with a bottle of Evian will do. I hit another tiny screw under here. Don't worry about that, I can resolder it. Had to take the screen out and all sorts, jeez. You see the screen ribbon cable's just been stuffed into there. And it very delicately flip out. It's this whole arrangement here with things all soldered into place. Okay then, at the bottom is the button panel, which also is attached to the backlight LED. Over here is the thing that tells you in the little bar charts of how good your blood pressure is, or how bad it is if it hits red. This is a solenoid which lets the air out. Underneath the main board here is a pump which lets the air in. And you can see down there, the thing that the pipe is plugged into is a sensor which reads your pulse. This main board itself is probably going to be something along the lines of a Cortex M0 device. It's interesting, just down here is a link for Europe and US. I wonder what that changes. And that, is that going to be a flash device? Possibly for storing the memory of the last 100 readings. And here's the ribbon cable for the screen, and I'm just going to guess it may well be broken there, and that might be the problem. So quality control really should have picked that up. Interestingly, if you see this along here with all these contacts, if we look underneath, there appears to be another chip down there. I'm not quite sure what that's for. Not attached to anything. Well, I haven't made it worse, that's the important thing. Wire just lifted off, it was barely even attached. A really spectacularly naff job of soldering, if you ask me. There we go.
L'appareil est prêt à fonctionner.
Yep.
Prenez votre tension.
Still in the wrong place. Ensure I get some sort of result to make sure it's hooked up correctly inside.
L'appareil est... Systole, 138 mm de mercure. Diastole, 83 mm de mercure. Pouls, 80 pulsations par minute. Selon l'OMS, votre tension est normale haute.
Catravan, 80. I think I'm just going to have to put up with it being naff, but alright, it works, it speaks to me. Now let's put it together. Okay, now that it's all back together, let's remember to clip that in to erase all of the information that was there of that other person.
De mémoire 2. Emplacement de mémoire 1. Moyenne, systole, 139. Toutes les données ont été effacées.
Okay, observations. Firstly, if that problem with the LCD is, as I suspect it is, a dodgy ribbon cable, it should never have left the factory. They should have noticed that when they were testing it. Great quality control there. Secondly, really bad form of Lidl to stick it back on the shelf if it's a customer return. Thirdly, it is obviously built to a budget. This, as I said, was about 15-16 euros, so it's okay for what it is. It's dirt cheap. I think a much more important question would be the accuracy rather than whether or not the LCD works. It's not a great thing. It does speak to me, so I can hear it. If you notice in the video of when I was taking it apart, I'll put a little bit up here, you can see that it's all soldered together using wires from each board. That's why I had to replace the speaker cable, because it's all little wires inside there. There were no connectors, there were no ribbon cables that plug into anything. This again is a measure to keep the price down, and I think it's a really sad indictment of our times that it's probably cheaper to employ people to do that than to stick a connector in there. Is that it is now sunset, and it's quite a lot colder than it was when I started. And because of playing with this thing, which was a little bit broken, shall we say, I never got to eat my chips.